they market it as a light-hearted way to discover your roots. A playful dive into percentages and maps, where you can learn whether your ancestors came from and maybe even find a long-lost cousin or two. The commercials make it seem harmless, almost like buying a puzzle you put together for fun. But for me, that little plastic tube and prepaid envelope carried a weight no one warned me about. When I clicked buy now, I wasn't just purchasing a kit, I was unlocking a truth that would ripple through my entire family, tearing at the seams of relationships I thought were unbreakable. What I uncovered wasn't just percentages or pie charts. It was secrets buried for decades. It was betrayals hidden behind smiles and Sunday dinners. It was a revelation that didn't just change how I saw myself, it destroyed the very foundation of who I believed my family was. This is the unspoken dark side of at-home DNA testing. The part no company will ever put in their glossy ads. The part where curiosity collides with hidden truths, raising painful ethical questions. Do we really have the right to dig into the past if we're not ready for the answers? What happens when the truth isn't just about us, but about everyone we love? For me, the answers came at a cost I could never have imagined. Stay with me because this gets more interesting. I bought the DNA kit on a weekend sale, the kind of discount banner that makes impulse decisions look responsible. Spit in the tube. Seal. Mail. I expected a novelty, some heritage percentages, a map, maybe a shared ancestor with a stranger who likes the same bands. 6 weeks later, my phone pinged, your results are in. The dashboard loaded, ancestry breakdown, migration map, and a matches tab showing relatives sorted by centimorgans. Up top, close family, half-sibling, 1892 cm, Lena M. I don't have a half-sibling. Under parent/child, the system said no immediate parent detected. My dad, who's never missed a birthday and taught me to drive in a church parking lot, wasn't showing as a parent. My stomach went cold. I opened Lena's profile. Our shared DNA segments covered multiple chromosomes. We messaged, "Hey, did you expect this?" She replied fast, "No. I grew up in a different state. My mom used a fertility clinic in the late 90s. Did your family?" I didn't know. I combed the raw data. The algorithm tagged several second cousins clustered around a single surname I didn't recognize, Mercer. Triangulation tutorials I found online said clusters like that often point to a grandparent line. My family tree, built from photo albums and secondhand stories, didn't have a Mercer anywhere. I called my mom. "Can you come by?" I asked. She hesitated. "Is everything okay?" I told her there was something about the kit we needed to talk through. She agreed to meet the next day. That night I printed everything, the match list, the shared CM chart, the chromosome browser screenshots. It felt clinical, like preparing exhibits for a case. I highlighted the 1892 cm. I circled no immediate parent detected next to my dad's name. I set the stack on the kitchen table and stared at it until the sun began to bleed into the blinds. By morning, I'd memorized the kit's help articles. They explained non-paternity events in blunt, antiseptic language. Unexpected relationships may occur. Under the privacy section, there was a line about law enforcement access with valid legal process. I had clicked through those terms in under a minute when I ordered the kit. The doorbell rang. I took a breath, opened the door, and led my mother to the table. She saw the papers, then my face. "What is this?" she asked. I pushed the stack toward her. "It says Dad isn't my biological father." She didn't sit down. Silence first. Then the kind of exhale that sounds like regret being pulled out by force. "I was going to tell you," my mom said, hands shaking. I just didn't know when. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. She said they'd struggled to conceive. After 2 miscarriages, her OB referred them to a fertility clinic across state lines, Lakeside Reproductive Center. "They told us we'd use an anonymous donor mixed with your father's sample," she said. "They said success rates were better that way back then." We were desperate. Did Dad know there was a donor? I asked. Yes, she said. But they promised the donor's profile matched her father's traits. We signed paperwork. We never learned the donor's name. She rubbed her temples. We never thought you'd take a test like this 26 years later. I asked why she never told me. She said they decided the biology didn't matter, that love and day-to-day parenting trumped DNA. We were going to tell you after college, she said. Then after you got your first job. Then after your engagement. There was always a reason to wait. I called my dad and asked him to come over. He arrived within the hour, still in his work shirt, hands greasy from an engine. I showed him the results. He didn't look surprised, just exhausted. I knew about the clinic, he said. We agreed. I'm your dad. He glanced at my mom. But I didn't know about a half-sibling. Mom explained the half-sibling match and the Mercer cluster. Dad listened, jaw tight. So the donor is out there. Maybe more kids, he said. What are you going to do? I didn't have an answer. I told them about Lena's message and the suggestion that Lakeside might have used the same donor extensively. I asked if they had any records. Mom rummaged through a file box and pulled a thinning folder, receipts, a photocopied consent form, a business card with a disconnected number. No donor ID. No physician's signature legible enough to Google with confidence. Do you want to meet this half-sibling? Dad asked. The question was practical, kind. I said yes, because ignoring it felt worse. He nodded slowly. Then we do this together, he said, though the words wobbled. He took off his ring, spun it on the table, stopped it with his thumb. But we're going to need time. That night, I messaged Lena, let's talk tomorrow. We set a call. I lay awake replaying my parents' faces. New truth, old love, and a clinic I'd never heard of sitting at the center of both. If you're invested in where this goes, tap like and subscribe, it helps more people find these true family stories. Drop a comment if you faced anything similar, anonymous is fine. Lena and I compared notes on video. She'd grown up 2 states away. Her mother also used Lakeside, same time frame. We shared birthdays less than a year apart. She'd already worked with a volunteer genealogist who taught her how to cluster matches and build a tree backward from shared cousins. The Mercer surname kept appearing in our highest matches. The triangulation pointed to a couple, Robert and June Mercer, as likely grandparents. From there, we mapped their children. One son stood out, Dr. Alan Mercer, an OB/GYN affiliated with Lakeside in the late 90s, according to archived medical directories Lena found on library microfilm. We didn't jump to conclusions, correlation isn't proof. But the pattern was ugly, multiple half-siblings, all conceived at the same clinic, all matching a family line that included a physician with access. We set up a private group chat for matches who looked like close relatives. Over 2 weeks, 6 more people joined, same story, same clinic, same cluster. One had obtained partial records from her mother, inseminations labeled donor 1023. Another had handwritten notes from a nurse who'd left the practice years ago. Nobody had a donor name. We reached out to Lakeside, which had since been absorbed into a larger network. Their patient portal didn't recognize our mother's old account numbers. The new parent company's compliance office sent a curt reply, we are unable to locate donor records from that period. When we asked specifically whether Dr. Mercer had ever served as a donor, they said they could not comment on personnel matters. Lena found a civil case in another state where a fertility doctor had used his own sperm without patient consent. Different name, different clinic, but the fact pattern, trust exploited in a private room, matched our fear. We weren't ready to accuse anyone publicly, but we weren't going to bury it either. I set up a spreadsheet, names, CM, birth years, clinic dates, maternal histories, health issues. 2 half-siblings had the same rare lipid disorder. Another shared a congenital heart murmur I'd been told just happens. When I added my elevated cholesterol panel to the list, it felt like a breadcrumb trail written in blood chemistry. We decided to seek counsel. Not for a payout, but for leverage. A consumer rights attorney agreed to a consultation. She told us to document everything, avoid defamation, and consider filing records requests with the state medical board. Also, she said, be careful where you upload your raw DNA. Some sites allow law enforcement matching. If any relative is a suspect in a case, you might get a knock at your door. 2 weeks later, I did. Detective Ruiz, County Sheriff's Office. Badge, neutral tone, partner lingering at the walkway. I stepped onto the porch, heart racing. He explained they were following leads on a decades-old sexual assault kit finally processed through a backlog initiative. A distant relative match in a public genealogy database had pointed to the Mercer family. My raw data, uploaded months earlier to compare tools, was a match to that same cluster. You are not a suspect, he said clearly. We're trying to build a family tree to identify a male relative who may be involved. I asked how they found me. He said I'd opted into relative matching on an open platform that allows law enforcement searches for violent crimes with proper authorization. I had clicked allow thinking I was helping solve cold cases abstractly, not realizing the target could be someone genetically connected to me. He asked for permission to record our interview and to collect a voluntary cheek swab to confirm the relationship path. I called the attorney on speaker. She advised cooperation limited to a family tree discussion, no DNA without a warrant. I relayed that. Ruiz stayed professional. Understood, he said. We spent an hour sketching the tree. I gave them only what was already public or consented by matches in our group. After they left, I called my parents. Dad's voice broke. This is what I was afraid of, he said. You get tangled in something you didn't choose. Mom was quiet, then said, if a doctor did this, he stole decisions from us. From you. Our group chat lit up, 2 others had received similar visits. The shared fear wasn't guilt, it was exposure. We hadn't asked to be conduits between a crime and a surname. But genetics doesn't ask permission. It just connects, indifferent to comfort. We met the attorney again. She recommended 3 tracks: file complaints with the state medical board and attorney general, request our mother's full medical records, even if incomplete, and consult a genetic counselor to manage the emotional fallout. Also, she added, lock down your privacy settings. Decide whether you'll keep your data online. There's no perfect answer. That night I opened every account. I read the terms I'd ignored, the data sharing, the retention policies, the law enforcement carve-outs. I toggled settings off where I could, deleted one upload entirely, and saved exports of everything else for our case file. None of it felt like control, just the least bad option in a maze someone else had built. If this story is hitting hard, share it with one person who should hear it. And tell me in the comments, would you keep your DNA online or pull it all down? The investigation moved at its own pace. Weeks stretched. Our group added 3 more half-siblings. One match secured her mother's consent form through a worn paper chart, donor 1023 again. Our attorney filed formal complaints. The medical board acknowledged receipt. The parent company sent a carefully worded letter expressing concern while admitting nothing. At home, the fallout was personal. Dad started sleeping in the guest room. Not because love had evaporated, but because the ground kept moving. He came to every meeting, read every memo, learned what centimorgans mean. He never once called himself anything but my dad. But he struggled. I missed first words, diapers, school plays, he asked one night, frustrated at his own looping grief. No. I didn't. I was there. So why does this feel like theft? There wasn't an answer that fixed it. I met Lena in person. We shared mannerisms, a tilt of the head when we laughed. It was surreal and grounding at once. We agreed to pace ourselves, build a relationship, not a spectacle. We also agreed that if a doctor used his own sperm without consent, the story wasn't ours alone. It belonged to every patient who deserved informed choice. I recorded a video, this story, Because people buy these kits for fun and get blindsided by consequences no ad mentions, non-paternity discoveries, fertility fraud, law enforcement triangulations, health risks you can't unknow. None of those are reasons to never test. But they are reasons to decide with eyes open. Here's what we did. Pragmatically, we secured copies of every medical record that still exists. We met with a genetic counselor, useful, not touchy-feely, actual coping skills. We set a family rule for media silence until investigations conclude. We created a private health registry for half-siblings to log conditions and labs. We agreed to boundaries with extended family who wanted gossip more than truth. I kept one DNA profile active for relative matching under tight settings. I removed raw data from open databases until we understood the legal landscape. If you're thinking about testing, ask yourself 3 questions. Can you handle a result that rewrites your origin story? Are you ready for relatives you didn't choose? And are you comfortable with how these companies store and share data? If you can't say yes to all 3, pause. The kit gave me facts I can't return. It also gave me people, some I never knew I needed, and a path to accountability for choices made behind closed doors. My family didn't break because of DNA. It broke because someone else treated consent like a detail. Now we're rebuilding around the only thing that ever made us a family in the first place, what we choose to do next. Stories like mine show that DNA tests don't just reveal ancestry, they can unravel secrets that change everything. If you want more real family stories and hidden truths like this, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. And tell me in the comments, would you still take a DNA test after hearing this?